Hey guys, welcome to an all-new bonus round here on GameTrailers.com. It is going to be a huge fall season here with the launch of the PS4 and Xbox One, and this month we are going to get into those new systems and what we're expecting from them. We've got a great panel as always, Michael Pachter, Michael McWhirter, and Garnet Lee, all frequent guests of the bonus round, and it's good to have you guys back as we get ready for the next-gen launches. So this week, let's get into PlayStation 4. What an amazing year Sony has had so far with PS4. Michael, you've been quoted, I've seen the past couple of weeks, talking about how you think PS4 is going to sell. Is there any way that this doesn't come out of the gates and be the #1 console this year?
Oh, I think not. I mean, it's got a $100 price advantage, so it should outsell the Xbox One. I think if there's any knock on the system, it's the first party launch titles are thin, to start, but I think they'll catch up. Sony really has managed things well, and I think the telling comment from them, they didn't say anything, the telling signal from them is that they delayed the Japanese launch.
Right.
And Sony historically has sold about 20% of their consoles early on in Japan. That supply is getting diverted somewhere. Pay attention because they got their butts kicked in North America last cycle, and I don't think they intend to get their butts kicked in North America this cycle. Yeah. So in the US, I would say PlayStation is going to outsell Xbox One at least through year end and probably well into next year. Then we'll see if Microsoft gets pissed and decides to cut price. Keep your fingers crossed. All
right, it's a good battle is going to be raged here over the next few months. Michael, you've covered PlayStation 4 for Polygon all year. Do you feel the momentum to pick one up on day one and get excited about this next generation that's starting in literally just a month?
Yeah, I think I'm trapped in the hardware lust cycle. I mean, I have a PlayStation 4 reserved and ready to come to my door on day one. I don't have an Xbox One reserved. Garnet and I were just talking, we don't really know why we're buying them. I mean, there's nothing in the launch lineup that's particularly appealing to me. Like, there are things in the future, things like Destiny and Infamous Second Son, and then a lot of the indie titles. But at launch, I'm getting Battlefield 4 kind of just out of an obligation. Just like I'll see what this is like and have a new console. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to move on to the next generation. But in terms of the software, there's not a whole lot there for me right now. But we're always buying these things on promise, right?
Well, but this year there's so many great games coming out for current gen. I mean, we had Grand Theft Auto 5 just a few weeks ago. Assassins, Call of Duty, Battlefield are all going to be available on, PS3 as well this year, and of course the next gen will be better. But Garnet, do you think is that a concern at all that some gamers might say, hey, I'm pretty satisfied right now with what I got, and maybe next year I'll get one, but I don't see
6 months from now, sure, yeah. Maybe that's a concern. But in the launch window, I'm with Michael. Somehow or other, Sony maneuvered themselves into a very Apple-like position where I want a PS4. And I don't really have the most rational reasoning for why I want a PS4 other than I look at the machine and go, you know what? That looks really cool. That's what I want out of the machine. I look at the way they've done the front end, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I like this user interface. I want to interact with my friends over the PlayStation Network now, which is not something I said about PlayStation 3. So, I've got enthusiasm for the machine, and then, differentiating between current gen and what we're now going to call next gen, next gen squared, whatever it's going to be. That's going to be a really tough argument. Are you not going to have fun with Battlefield because you're playing it on your PS3? No, of course you're still going to have fun with the game. Are you not going to have fun with Ghosts because you're playing it on the old system? No, of course you're still going to have fun with it, but if you have the new system, then you're going to have new ways of interacting with it. You're going to have that sort of plus experience.
All right, guys, hold that thought. We're going to be right back. Now, there's lots of questions around, how many are they going to ship this year? How readily available is it going to be? Are we going to see shortages of the PS4 this year, do you think, Michael?
I can talk to you about the supply side, and I'll leave it up to you guys to come up with demand. But Sony's making 1 million a month. Okay. Microsoft probably about the same, and they probably commence manufacture around September 1st.
Right.
So, through December, they'll manufacture 4 million each. Because of this delay in Japan, I think Sony will probably ship around 2 million to the US.
Right. And
my guess is those will sell out. But if you think demand's less than 2 million, then no, they won't. If you think it's 3 million, they're sold out. Same, the Xbox, probably demand will be a little lower because it's another $100. I think Microsoft intends to really market the hell out of the value add of Kinect, the headset in the box. If I had to bet, I'd say they're going to throw some software in the box and maybe 3 months of Xbox Live Gold.
For launch, you think?
I think they have to. Wow. I think that they need to give the gamer a reason to spend an extra $100, and Kinect isn't it. The gamer's not going to say...
There's nothing for Kinect. Really.
It's not going to play the games. Battlefield is not going to look or feel or play any differently on the Xbox One versus the PS4, so why am I paying an extra $100? And I think it's very interesting that the two of you guys both reserved a PS4, and I wonder how much the $100 had to do with it, or you just ready...
To be honest, I have a One reserve as well. Right, I do have a One reserve as well, but that's primarily because I'm a big auto guy, so I have to have Forza 5. I mean, that's just that was like a given.
Well, for me, it was more like, it wasn't like an extra $100, it was an extra $500.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't really see the value proposition.
Well, no, it's 500 versus 400.
No, but I mean, like, no, I know I'm getting
going to play
PS4.
Battlefield on PS4, so
right.
that, what more are you getting for Xbox One? And I mean, that's, part of the thing is these launch lineups, I think, as you guys, I mean, even Xbox and PS4, I mean, it's typical launch cycle where there's not that killer game.
No, and I think we have contributed to this, but there's a misperception out there that the only reason anybody buys a new console is because there's such a quantum leap in physics and everything's so much faster that, and I mean, I'll be vilified on the internet for throwing out stats that are wrong, but every cycle ever in history, I think the power of the console that came out was probably 40-fold better than the one prior. These are like 4-fold. I mean, they're not as quantum a leap. And yet, so I think a lot of people are skeptical about demand this time around. The fact is, we all do buy cars every so often, every 7 or 8 years, because you get tired of your old car.
Well, when you look at your iPhone, like, people buy
phones
iPhone 5S,
every 2.
It's like, do you really need it to be that much faster? No, so you're buying it for a new flash.
Yeah, and we do. And we buy new TVs, not necessarily just because of, because the program is any different. So I think this is more like that. And I think you're right. You guys both said this. It's like, I'm just ready. I'm ready to buy a new console. I think everybody is. Yeah. So I think demand's going to be super, super high. I think the stakes for both companies are high because the early adopters are going to shape opinion. And so if all your friends decide en masse to move over to PlayStation Network to play Call of Duty going forward, you got some pressure, you got to buy a PS4, and I think it matters to Microsoft. They've had a huge advantage online. And
you've got pent-up demand as well. So you've got pent-up demand among Sony fans, right? Because Sony fans kind of feel like they've been lower man on the totem pole this whole generation, and now suddenly they've got arguably the flagship, and so they get to carry the banner forward, and so there's a lot of enthusiasm there. And that really, I think, will motivate buyers to get in there and say,
that's a great point, because that fan base is...
I want that PlayStation 4. This is my time to be back at the head of the pack. This is Sony making the big PlayStation come back.
Loud and proud fans, as we know.
So I think you're going to see Garnett's PS4 on eBay for $1,000 that first day.
No, how else would I play Resogun? I got to have that.
So how can Sony screw this up, though? I mean, when they're leading, it seems like they got a lot of momentum, a lot of interest. Microsoft's going to come at them hard. I mean, what is Sony not doing that they should be doing, or what are some of the, are there any speed bumps in their future?
They're pretty flawless so far. I mean, I think that, everything they've even said about PSN, I think, is pretty flawless. So it sounds like there's value add for the cost. The only thing they're going to have problems with, I think, is supply disruption. Wow. If they have demand that exceeds that 1 million pre-orders they talked about, which I understand now is up to 1.5 million.
Wow,
that's a lot of consoles. I mean, that
worldwide,
tells you,
right?
Yeah, but that tells you there's not going to be a lot of boxes behind the first 1.5 million. Yeah. And so I think you're going to have supply shortages. And I just think that to the extent there is a shortage, that's a potential customer that says, I'm getting an Xbox One because that's great too.
I think the management issue comes down to once they move those right at holiday and people play those first couple of games, how do they handle the next 6 months?
Right.
Because there is, there's like this, little bit of an empty spot. Of course, you've got a couple of games falling in there, but people are going to say, oh, I played my Christmas games. It's the same sort of fall off you have in the market traditionally after Christmas. What do I play? Which is why you always see some good bounces around Valentine's.
But Microsoft actually handled that masterfully with Titanfall and Halo both coming out first half of the year next year.
Halo first half of next year?
I think they said that.
Yeah. So can Second Son fill that spot strongly enough for PlayStation to satisfy everybody as Titanfall comes out against it?
Well, they've also got Destiny coming out in the spring.
Right.
And that is a multi-platform title, but I think that Sony is really positioning it and co-marketing it as a PlayStation 4 title. And
Even though it doesn't seem like there's that much that's going to be different about Destiny for PlayStation 4, right? It feels like it's the same game.
No,
or
I
there
think
might
it's
be some DLC or
mostly
something, but it's
cosmetic,
like-
but I think that
Right.
like, a lot of the marketing, as you see with
Yep.
Microsoft
pushing
do
it hard.
behind Call of Duty, is going to be on the Destiny front for PlayStation.
Where do you think friends are going to go, though? Because I think that game especially is going to fall victim to, did my Xbox Live buddy group all move over to PSN?
Right.
Are
That's
they part
important.
on PSN? Are they part on Live?
No, that's really important, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that Sony has done, from what we've seen, a pretty good job of matching a lot of the online services that Microsoft were so strong with in this generation. That's why so many people moved over there. Plus, they had the year advantage. Microsoft doesn't have as much of an advantage in terms of online services this time around. So,
But how do I get someone to move? I mean, that's the thing is once, I'm settled into Live and I'm accustomed to going home, take like right now when Grand Theft came out. I even just look at it as a social network. As I log into Xbox Live, I look up and say, okay, which of my friends are playing GTA? What missions are they on? And it sort of has almost a
Motivate you.
Facebook-like effect, right? So
I think
how
it's
do
just
get
going to happen
people-
as a product of the install base.
Maybe. I don't know. I think that the install base, though, will follow where their social hooks have been. And if their social hooks are really strong in Xbox Live, and they've already thought how, hey, you know what, my friends are going to be playing on Live, then Sony has to somehow motivate people to say, you know what, PSN should be your default, and Xbox
No,
Live
moving
should be your
moving
second.
everyone en masse to the PS4 is going to be a challenge for
challenge,
them,
yeah.
but we'll see. All right, well, when we come back, we're going to move on to Microsoft Xbox One and what they've got in store this holiday season.